A couple, twice my age, invited me to their home. If anyone had suggested to me that by the age of 24, I would find myself as the secret fixation of a married couple twice my age, I would have found it utterly amusing, yet, longing does not adhere to reason. It slinks in gradually and mesmerizingly, until there's no way to retreat. My initial experience stood apart from the typical narratives often told about girls. I maintained a humble approach to relationships, yet felt at ease with my friends. I have consistently adhered to the guidelines. I was already 24. Many of my friends had already taken the plunge, but I was holding out for the right moment. During that period, I was employed at my father's business. I worked in logistics and I felt quite at ease in that role. This business was established around 30 years ago, alongside their friend Mr. Spells. I simply refer to him as Kevin. My father oversaw the merchandise department, while Kevin managed the logistics department. I was brought to his department. I held a typical managerial position. Yet my compensation was quite favorable. Kevin was consistently warm and approachable. His wife frequently visited, bringing us delightful treats each time. It was a familiar pattern that provided comfort, a well-organized sequence that maintained its flow without interruption. Yet, as I reflect on the past, I can't help but ponder whether a part of me had already started to change, biding its time for the perfect moment to come alive. Kevin possessed a unique quality, an innate assurance. A charisma that quietly captivated without ever seeking the spotlight. He had an air of maturity, undoubtedly shaped by years of experience, exuding a confidence that allowed him to navigate any room with ease. I never considered it deeply before, never allowed myself to dwell on it, yet, at times, when he addressed me, there was an intensity in his gaze that held for a moment too long, something that caused a tightening in my stomach that I couldn't quite articulate. I chose to overlook it. I had to. Much of my time was consumed by logistics reports, monitoring shipments, and arranging schedules. It was a calm position, consistent, reliable. The sort of role that allowed your thoughts to drift if you weren't vigilant. And recently, my thoughts have been drifting. There was something captivating about the way Kevin glided through the office, the way his voice softened when he addressed me, the way his fingertips occasionally grazed mine as he passed me a file. It was nothing, of course, just an accident, a trick of the mind, yet I felt it nonetheless, resonating deep within my bones. I convinced myself that I was merely imagining things, that I was overanalyzing details that held no significance, yet, despite my efforts to brush it aside, I became increasingly conscious of him, of his very presence, of how his shirt clung to his shoulders, and how his sleeves were perpetually rolled up, revealing the defined contours of his forearms. And then came the days when his wife would pay a visit. She would smile at me, offering cookies she had baked, and I would accept them with a courteous thank you, and each time, I would experience a twinge of something I was reluctant to identify. It was ridiculous. Kevin was my father's business partner, a married man, someone I had known since childhood, and yet the air between us had shifted, or perhaps it had always been like this. And I was merely starting to observe. I kept convincing myself it was all in my head, yet deep down I understood the truth. The office lay in silence. The familiar buzz of conversation and ringing phones now supplanted by the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. The majority of the staff had departed, resulting in vacant desks and subdued lighting. The atmosphere was transformed at this hour, imbued with a sense of intimacy and vulnerability. I maintained my gaze on the screen, feigning concentration, even as my thoughts wandered off to distant places. Distant, the heaviness of his presence next to me rendered concentration utterly unattainable. His fingers remained entwined with mine, warm and steady, the contact delicate yet laden with significance. Silent. A subtle tension lingered in the air, taut and delicate like a thread drawn to its limit. I gulped. Are you still not subscribed to Nasty Talks? Tap that subscribe button now to be the first to know. We share our narratives each day. This was Kevin, the man who had consistently been a reliable presence in my life, who had steered me. During my initial days at the company, he had always been just a mentor, a family friend. Until now, his thumb made the slightest movement, a gentle glide against the skin of my wrist, nearly absent-minded, nearly innocent. However, the manner in which it unfolded was far from innocent. Made my pulse stutter, about the way warmth crept up my spine, slow and dangerous. I withdrew my hand, both gentle and resolute. He let out a breath. So gentle it scarcely touched the space that separated us, yet I sensed it. The atmosphere was dense, electric, resonating with a vitality I hesitated to define. "I believe it's time for you to take a break," he had remarked. Maybe he was correct. I rose abruptly, collecting my belongings with motions that seemed overly rigid, too constrained. I found it impossible to meet his gaze, not head-on. My fingers quivered as I extended my hand toward my bag. I required some distance, some space to clear my mind. To assure myself that I was merely imagining the weight of his gaze lingered on me, a quiet patience evident in the way he observed. He remained silent, made no effort to halt my progress. Yet as I brushed by him, a subtle change occurred, a mere whisper of movement, a shift in balance, the slightest inclination toward me. It was insignificant. And yet it held all the significance in the world. The brisk air of the hallway enveloped me, a jolt against my skin, yet it did little to alleviate the simmering heat that had settled deep within. I hurried along, my heels tapping sharply on the tile, breath coming in quick, shallow bursts. I had to erase this from my mind, to dismiss how my body had reacted without my consent. To ignore the fact that I had enjoyed it. At home, my thoughts would not find peace. Each tranquil instant was imbued with his essence, his words, his touch, the heaviness of his stare. It was utterly perplexing. He was 50 years old. He possessed a family, a flawless existence crafted through the years. Why me, the daughter of his best friend, a presence that had always been familiar? Yet never in such a profound manner. Did he desire a mistress? Is there anyone who can weave themselves into the gaps of his meticulously crafted existence? No, it wasn't so straightforward. I promised myself that I would articulate everything later, when I felt prepared to express it all in words. The days at work turned intolerable. I averted my gaze, maintained my space. Feigned indifference to the unseen force drawing me closer to him, yet paradoxically, I found myself unable to exit the room, while he remained inside. It was a subtle kind of anguish. Yet my thoughts remained solely on him. I required a moment to inhale deeply. The project had come to a close. I felt completely unanchored in this place. I gathered my belongings and departed. It was a solitary getaway, not a flight from reality, but a moment of stillness. A means to detach from it all, to create space between my mind and my physical self. To recall the vastness of the world beyond the confines of my workspace, to explore uncharted territories, to reconsider existence, perhaps to discover that singular purpose. Yet, the months slipped away all too swiftly, the days cascading through my grasp like a gentle stream. I wandered through unfamiliar landscapes, encountered intriguing individuals, and allowed the world to swirl around me, hoping it would silence the thoughts I wasn't prepared to confront. It was unsuccessful. I came back home, unchanged from who I was before I departed. Feeling restless, unsettled, and still preoccupied with thoughts of him, the office had an altered atmosphere upon my return, a stillness that transcended mere sound. His absence hung in the atmosphere. Surprising and disquieting. I had devoted a month to banishing thoughts of him, yet now that he was absent, the allure of him seemed to intensify. However, his wife was present. She glided through the space with effortless grace, her warm smile ever present as it always was. She had been a part of my life since childhood, sharing countless dinners with me, and once tenderly brushing the hair from my face like a second mother, when I was too young to grasp the essence of womanhood. Today she remained steadfastly by my side. She brought me lunch, followed by coffee, and later in the afternoon, she insisted on preparing dinner for us both. I attempted to dismiss it as mere kindness. Yet there was an unmistakable difference about her, something in the way she held my gaze just a moment too long, in the way she positioned herself close. Her body angled toward mine, as if she were anticipating my realization. Her touches were gentle yet persistent, a hand lingering on my arm for just a moment too long. The shape of her palm brushing against my fingers as she handed me a glass of water. Twice she held me close, her embrace gentle and tender, her breath a warm whisper against my hair. I couldn't grasp it. She had consistently been loving, radiating a warmth that made everyone feel at home. Today, however, felt distinct. There was a purpose in her actions, a pause. As if she were gauging my response to each caress. As the evening settled in, she kindly offered to drive me home. I hesitated, the thought of being in a confined space with her, with this peculiar tension coiling between us, made my skin feel too alive. It felt constricting, yet declining would come off as impolite, and truthfully, a part of me was intrigued. The drive began in silence, the gentle murmur of the pavement below us creating a serene backdrop. Then she broke the stillness with a soft inhale, a deliberate breath, followed by words that hung heavily in the air, making the atmosphere inside the car feel dense, nearly overwhelming. "Betty, Kevin, and I have a question for you." I looked at her. Uncertain if I had misunderstood, she maintained her gaze on the road, her fingers rhythmically tapping against the wheel. Then, as if she had practiced this moment, her voice softened, sinking into a realm of intimacy. The words lingered between us, heavy and unyielding. I swallowed, my hands curling into my lap, heat creeping up my neck. What was the reason behind her sharing this with me? Are you interested in supporting the girls and tuning in to watch the videos daily? Your contribution, in any amount, would be greatly appreciated. Please find the link in the description to donate. The street lights flickered across her face, revealing a nuance in her expression that I had never noticed before. The words lingered in the atmosphere, dense and weighty, pressing against my skin, enveloping me like something real. The soft drone of the engine, the steady dance of streetlights reflecting off the windshield. All else blurred into the backdrop. I remained still, my hands resting in my lap, my breath shallow, grappling with the significance of her words. Become a part of their journey. It was not a mere suggestion thrown about without thought. It was intentional, calculated. She had contemplated this, strategized it, and bided her time for the perfect moment. I tilted my head just a bit, catching a glimpse of her from the edge of my vision. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel firmly, yet her expression stayed serene, as if we were merely chatting about weekend plans. What was she seeking from me? A warmth spread over my skin, uncomfortable, unfamiliar. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, reverberating through the confined space of the car. She let out a gentle sigh, as though perceiving my discomfort. Then, in a similarly polished manner, she continued, "We would like you to join us." The words stood firm, exuding confidence. "Certainly, you have the option to decline, but I encourage you to give it a chance." My breath caught. "First, you can get to know me better," she continued, her voice lowering, gliding over me like silk. "Then Kevin, and then, the two of us." Every word nestled deeper within me, twisting, unfurling, slipping into hidden places I hadn't even known were bare. I was at a loss for words. I was completely immobilized. Nothing in my life had equipped me for this moment. My body felt disconnected from my mind, a battle of heat and cold raging beneath my skin. The atmosphere within the car grew dense, the distance between us abruptly felt constricted, electrified, and utterly undeniable. Then she extended her hand. Fingertips grazed my jaw, gentle and probing, as if she anticipated my resistance. No, I did not. I was unable to. And then, gentle lips brushed against mine. A soft breath released. A warmth that flowed from her lips to mine. Subtle yet intentional, the slightest touch, just enough to cause my breath to catch. My body stiffened, not from rejection but from shock, from the overwhelming weight of what was unfolding. The moment lingered, caught in the delicate balance between doubt and acceptance. The world beyond the vehicle faded into a haze, overshadowed by the heaviness of the moment bearing down on me. The atmosphere was dense, weighty, pulsating with an energy I had yet to comprehend. The warmth of her lips remained, a subtle mark of something that feels both strange and known. There was an absence I hadn't realized existed. My breath came in shallow gasps, the steady rise and fall of my chest revealing the turmoil within me. She took her time. She allowed me to experience it all, each movement of her body, each gentle touch of her fingertips on my skin. Every soft sigh that lingered between us felt like a secret meant solely for this moment. The parking lot lay in stillness, the outside world unaware of the events taking place within this confined area. The vehicle remained stationary, neither had I initially, no. But my hands, compelled by an instinct deeper than reason, reached out, discovering the sleek buttons of her blouse point one by one. They unraveled. Her skin felt warm under my fingertips, her breath catching just a bit as my touch brushed against her. A hand rested on my jeans, slow and deliberate. My body tensed, then melted, unraveling under the burden of sensation. She glided with effortless grace, transitioning into the passenger seat, a soft whisper of fabric accompanying her as she reclined it back. Then she was above me, the distance between us disappearing entirely. Her lips glided along my jaw, exploring my throat. Every kiss ignited a fresh surge of warmth within me, leaving me breathless, quivering, suspended between astonishment and yielding. It wasn't about her gender. It was solely about the sensation of being desired, of experiencing a touch that rendered the outside world irrelevant. Thoughts faded, eluding my hold. My jeans slipped down, my underwear trailing behind, and the night air tingled against my exposed skin. Then her hand, a deliberate, intimate caress that sent my body into a state of tension, then release, breath catching, fingers clutching the seat beneath me. My forehead pressed into her shoulder, lips grazing against her skin. Breathless, desperate, overwhelmed, slow at first, then all at once. A sudden, sharp inhale. My body tightens as heat spreads like liquid fire through my veins. My fingers tightened, my back curved. My eyes squeezed shut. A sound slipped from my lips, a blend of a gasp and a plea, followed by an enveloping stillness. The aftershocks coursed through me, my heartbeat resonating in my ears. Skin slick with the remnants of an unfamiliar sensation that I instantly recognized. Her lips met mine once more, gentler this time, lingering as if to seal an unspoken bond between us. Furthermore, a soft murmur brushes my lips. You have the opportunity to learn more about him now. The office lay in a hushed stillness, interrupted only by the soft scratching of a pen on paper. The atmosphere bore the heaviness of the moment, late, unhurried, filled with anticipation. I had deliberately remained, fully aware that he would do the same. He remained silent about it. Finding no necessity to voice his thoughts, the bond we shared was already firmly established. The gentle murmur of the overhead lights enveloped his desk in a subdued radiance. He was absorbed, completing reports, his fingers gliding purposefully across the pages. I lingered at the doorway for a moment, observing my breath as it slowed, steady and deliberate. He remained focused on his task. Yet I could tell he was aware of my presence. I moved forward, my steps deliberate and soft, the fabric of my skirt gliding against my thighs as I knelt beneath his desk. My fingers traced his belt, unfastening it with deliberate precision. A button, followed by a zipper, each released with a careful, unhurried grace. A quick breath in. His hand brushed against my hair, weaving through the strands. Not directing, merely exploring. I followed the contours of him across the fabric, feeling the change in his breath, the way his body responded to my touch. It was a quick process. The tension wound within him like a wire drawn taut. The warmth of his skin, the press of my lips, each movement only intensified the heaviness of expectation. He reclined, releasing a breath, his fingers tightening just a bit, his control clear, consistent in the minutest actions. I savored the moment, allowing just my lips to explore, the gentle flicker of my tongue at the beginning. Slow and tentative, coaxing soft sounds from the depths of his chest. Then, when the moment transformed, when restraint surrendered to desire, I offered more. The chair moved back abruptly. A moment of breathless stillness, then hands gripped my waist, steady and guiding. A turn, a press, the fabric of my skirt lifting as his fingers traced the curve of my hips. I murmured the words before I could hold back. This is my first experience. A moment suspended, the heaviness of his hands anchoring me, the gentle warmth of his breath whispering at my ear. I will exercise caution. Indeed, he was. Each action was deliberate, calculated, and calm. His hands discovered my chest, pressing through the soft knit of my sweater, holding steady. He gently guided me, letting my body acclimate, setting the stage for an experience that transcended this very moment. There was no hurry, just the warmth of skin, the gentle yielding. The way he embraced me as if to guarantee I wouldn't shatter. When it concluded, I grasped a certain unvoiced truth. This was not an ending. It was merely the start. The weekend came upon me more swiftly than I had anticipated. I stood outside their house, gazing at the well-known walls, the windows that had once captured my childhood laughter. The door I had passed through countless times before, yet, this evening, there was an unmistakable shift in the air. The heaviness of what was about to unfold settled deep in my stomach. A subtle excitement intertwined with uncertainty, warmth enveloped me, welcoming me inside. The aroma of home-cooked meals hung in the air, intertwining with the subtle hints of cologne and perfume. The walls were adorned with framed photographs, capturing moments frozen in time, smiling faces, shared memories, a life constructed together. Some of them included my parents. I once experienced this life from a different perspective. Now I was embarking on a fresh journey, the three of us gathered around the table. The soft clink of silverware against plates creating a backdrop for the silence that lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken thoughts. She poured the wine, her hand steady. Yet I noticed how her gaze flickered between him and me. He sipped whiskey with a deliberate and careful pace. They were likely feeling anxious. I definitely was. I hoped for everything to go smoothly. After dinner was complete, we transitioned to the bedroom. The atmosphere was thick with an unarticulated tension, a feeling that lingered just beneath the surface. To lighten the atmosphere, I extended my hand towards her first. Her back met the sheets, the silk gliding smoothly beneath my fingertips. I pressed my lips to hers, mirroring the way she had kissed me in the car. Following the trail she had shown me. However, instinct prevailed, the delicate texture of her skin against my lips, the way her breath hitched as my mouth descended. The response of her body to my caress. It was all unfamiliar, yet felt completely instinctive. The intricate lace of her lingerie enveloped her, and as I gently drew it aside, she let out a soft sigh. Arching subtly beneath me. He stood there, observing, anticipating, a gentle, measured warmth radiating from behind me. The feeling was known, yet completely transformed in this moment. This time, his hands moved without a hint of hesitation. No patience, just a need for a shift in weight and a deep inhale. Then, a sudden connection surged through me, unraveling something profound within. I breathed out softly against her skin, my body melding into hers as he asserted his presence behind me. Each movement created a ripple within us, one sensation flowing into the next. An unstoppable chain reaction. The space seemed to shrink, warmth enveloping us, as the connection between us deepened effortlessly. There was no longer him, or her or me, only we. All became a haze of feeling, the warmth of flesh, the intertwined cadence of motion, the gasping noises enveloping the space. My skin tingled with each touch, each press of lips, every slow, deliberate caress that sent shivers down my spine. A continuous swell of intensity enveloped us, an unrelenting force drawing us further in, leading us toward an uncontrollable fate. Fingers explored. Mouths glided over every bit of bare flesh. My body reacted instinctively, arching, seeking, surrendering to the warmth of one mouth, then another, leaving a trail of fire against my skin. A sudden gasp as gentle lips enveloped the tender peaks of my chest, two mouths in perfect harmony, moving together seamlessly. It was intense, and still, I craved more. The transition occurred effortlessly, as though we had experienced this countless times prior. A gentle sway of the hips, a deep breath, the enticing sensation of skin meeting skin. The connection flowed effortlessly, as if we were all in sync, perfectly attuned to each other's every movement. The delight accumulated, stacking upon itself, rising ever higher, constricting. A spiral entwining deep within me. Each sound, each brush of fingers, each meeting of mouths only intensified the sensation, propelling it onward, rendering it utterly irresistible. Then came a moment of stillness, just for a breath, before everything unraveled all at once. A piercing cry, a gasp consumed by a kiss, bodies quaking together as torrents of feeling surged through us. It was unique, profound, unlike anything I had ever experienced. The aftershocks coursed through me, rendering me breathless, weightless. As I surrendered to the warmth enveloping me. Kate and I flowed together, leading him through the concluding moments, our lips descending gently, completing what had started, sealing the experience with a hushed reverence. Then there was silence. Just the sound of breathing, a gradual return to reality, bodies intertwined, skin damp, hearts still racing. This was something altogether different, more than mere desire or curiosity. It was an unvoiced feeling, a presence that remained, their house transformed into something known anew, no longer merely a space brimming with echoes of childhood and family reunions. It was something else now, a realm where doors shut and the outside world disappeared, where whispers transformed into sighs, where glances evolved into touches. Where restraint vanished the moment it started. I visited them frequently, at times for her, at times for him, and sometimes for both of them together. Each encounter was unique. Yet it consistently evoked the same feelings within me, desired, needed, and intertwined in something secretive and all-consuming. They continue to rely on me. I can sense this in the way their hands draw me nearer the instant I enter, in the way their bodies respond even before a single word is uttered. Their hunger reflects my own. An unvoiced connection between us that resides solely within these walls. No one knows, not my parents, not the people at work. Not anyone who has ever seen us together in the past and believed we were only what we had always been, family friends. The idea sends a shiver down my spine. The excitement of hidden truths enveloping me like a warm hug, yet, within these walls, our secret is far from silent. The bedroom contains all the solutions to every silent inquiry. The nights unfold endlessly, resonating with the whispers of lips meeting skin, breaths catching, bodies entwined, yielding to an experience unknown to either of them until now, even now. The mere thought of it sends ripples through my body. A gentle thrum beneath my skin, a well-known ache intensifying between my thighs. My breath deepens and I shift slightly where I sit. Aware of the heat spreading through me, the dampness forming against lace. I close my eyes for a moment, reliving it, the weight of hands on my hips, the warmth of lips against my chest. The way they take turns making me lose control, guiding me toward the inevitable, the undeniable, the way I let them, the way I crave it. I often find myself pondering whether anyone has an inkling. If my parents might ever gaze into my eyes and perceive something unusual, if they could ever fathom the events that unfold behind the doors of this home. The influence of their closest companions has transformed me into a different person, and I wish they would remain unaware of it. I find it hard to imagine facing the truth in their expressions. Yet that very notion only fuels my intrigue further. Enjoy this video and consider subscribing to Nasty Talks. Be sure to share this video with your friends on WhatsApp so they can enjoy it as well. Thank you for your presence alongside me.